Hello and welcome to this Facebook Live from the BBC News Facebook page. I am live at a school in northwest London that is undergoing a very special transformation because over the festive period, more than 200 homeless people will be coming here to enjoy a range of activities, to have beds and hot meals. I'm here right now with some of the volunteers. This is Siobhan and she's going to show us what are inside these red boxes.
So inside these red boxes, every guest gets given, there'll be one pillow and one piece of bedding for them to sleep with throughout the course of the stay here at Crisis.
And what else are these boxes used for?
So for every guest that arrives here, it's a really important space for them. They're able to put all their possessions in with them. And bear in mind that throughout the year, guests may be carrying everything, their clothes, their belongings, any mementos, all their personal information with them on the streets. This creates a safe space for them to store their belongings and not have to worry about them during their stay here.
So this is the first place they come when they sign in at the centre?
Yep, so often they'll come straight through and they want to get rid of their stuff, they want to be able to sit down and relax, and this space here allows them to do so.
Okay, lovely, thanks ever so much. We're going to go on to the next space, which is, we're going to find out where they sleep. But first of all, I'm going to introduce you to Mari. This here is Mari. She's the shift leader here at Crisis. And can you tell me a little bit about what happens next once the guests have come and dropped off their belongings?
So we introduce them to the rest of the centre so they can find out what opportunities there are for them here, what facilities that we have. One of the things they're very interested in is where they get to sleep. So we'll show you the sleeping area in a moment. But it gives them access to showers, it gives them access to good meals every day, and it's a safe place that they can come in and out. They don't have to worry about where their belongings are, and they can rest and relax. And we put a whole variety of other things on for them as well. There'll be entertainment in the evening and during the day, and give them access to services that they wouldn't normally have access to, so medical, dental, chiropody, opticians, a whole variety of things. And it's to make them have a safe and happy Christmas. It's like a family that they wouldn't normally get to spend time with.
And homelessness is a huge problem in Britain and around the world, but it's particularly dangerous in these cold winter months. Where are your guests coming from?
So the guests for this centre in particularly come from winter night shelters. So that's period from, say, November to January, February. Our guests will be in specific centres that normally operate out of, say, church halls with volunteers. And what happens over Christmas is it's not so easy to facilitate that. And one of the services we provide here for those guests, specifically for the winter night shelters, that will come into this centre. So we'll have around 200 or so guests.
Well, that's fantastic. And how many homeless guests will we put up in centres across the UK over this period? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you across the UK, but for Crisis itself, we'll probably sleep somewhere between 900 and 1,000, and that will be verified rough sleepers. And then obviously we have day centres for those who are in hostels or ex-homeless or people who just need to access our service will be able to go and access them.
I mean, that's amazing because my understanding is there are about 11,000 volunteers setting up this service. But let's be careful of these steps. And we're going to go into the sleeping quarters. If you could tell me a little bit about these volunteers, where they come from, and why they dedicate their time to this cause.
So you're right, there's about 11,000 volunteers in total, and it's not just general volunteers who help run the centres, but all our services are provided by volunteers, whether that's your medics or your dentists or anyone else. Every single person's a volunteer. And they come from all walks of life. It's really amazing when you meet volunteers on your shift because you don't know what their backgrounds are, and it's such a variety. What you also see, though, is people. Why do people do it? Well, they do it for a whole variety of reasons. Either they've been through the same situation themselves. They've heard one of us who, once you begin doing it, you're just so enthusiastic about it, and you get a huge amount out of it. And the people are very aware of the rising homelessness problem in the UK and how much it has increased over the past few years. So they want to give back.
Okay, let's have a little look at where we are now. So these are, let's come right down and have a look at these beds. How many are there in here?
There's probably about 180 beds in here at the moment. So what we've had to do over the past couple of days is actually cover the school floor because we don't want to damage it. So we've had a whole variety of volunteers in yesterday, putting a huge amount of work in so we could actually put this flooring down and then building the camp beds.
And how comfy are those camp beds?
I think from what we hear, they're reasonably comfortable, which is quite good because if you think about our guests, they're sleeping, those who sleep rough, most of the time during the year, what they're doing is actually sleeping on the ground, they're sleeping in doorways, they're sleeping in rough ground. So this gives them somewhere safe, warm and protected to be, and comfortable.
We're getting a couple of questions through from our viewers. Hello to everyone who's watching us. Have you ever worked in a homeless shelter over Christmas? Have you ever volunteered at all in a setup like this? Please let us know in the comments. And Yvonne is asking, what about helping homeless people get jobs so they can support themselves? Do you offer that kind of service here?
So Crisis offers a service throughout the year, and part of what we try and do here at Crisis Christmas is to link them into those services that Crisis runs. So there are employment services and also training. Crisis itself, its Crisis Skylight, provides a huge amount of training for our homeless members. They're members during the year, they're guests for us at Christmas. But yes, there's a huge amount of training, and that's to help them get back into work so that they are able to support themselves.
So they're members at the rest of the year and they're guests at Christmas. And from walking around here and speaking to some of the volunteers, I understand that this place is a real kind of pampering opportunity. Yeah. You really look after them. What kind of things do you do to make this a really special period for people who otherwise might be sleeping in more rough conditions?
So they are our guests because it's Christmas and you invite people into your home, and that's effectively what we're trying to do here. So we give them access to those softer services as well. So you're talking about hairdressing, manicures, the ability to have, a safe place to wash, shower, relax. We have a library, we have arts and crafts, those things that if you are living on the street, you just have no access to. And it makes them feel human again in a lot of ways that perhaps they don't have the opportunity to do. And one of the biggest things that I try and get my volunteers to do with the guests is to actually sit down and speak to our guests, because when they are on the street, people don't engage with them, they don't get eye contact, and they don't just have that luxury of being able to talk about whatever they want to talk about, and that's part of what we're trying to do here.
What amazing work you're doing. And we're having some comments coming in from our viewers. Hello everyone out there. Thank you so much for your lovely comments. David says that he gave a charity some money for someone to have a safe place over this period, and thanks you for showing him behind the scenes. Jean Hodgson says she gives to 2 or 3 charities every Christmas, and Richard said he's volunteering with Christmas Care in Swindon, also helping the homeless over Christmas. So thank you everyone out there for your messages. Shall we continue the tour?
We shall.
So next we're going to go and have a look at one of the services that's offered here. It's a very important service. It's the dentist truck. Can you tell me a bit about that?
So if you are homeless, and particularly if you're street sleeping, it's very difficult to access medical services, particularly things like dentistry, because you're registering and the whole thing about how you go about it. So our dentists are based here, and they will go to our other centres and bring guests over.
I'll get this one.
No. They will bring them over, and the dentists will see them here. And our dentists can give you a bit more information about the extra services they're providing this year. But for our guests who perhaps have been suffering with dental pain throughout the year, this is enormous for them. It makes such a difference.
What other kind of medical or what other kind of services might there be? I understand there might be hairdressing. Are there doctors?
There are doctors and nurses that come in, so they can have an appointment with the doctor, and medics will follow up. We also have chiropody, so their feet, in particular for those who are walking, and you'll find a lot of people who are homeless spend a lot of their day walking. There will be physiotherapists, pharmacists, we have massage therapy, all those softer things as well. And it's quite funny because a lot of the guests want to access them multiple times, and it works really well, and the difference you see in them from day one when they come in to when they're leaving is just phenomenal.
So the guests are here for a period of 8 days.
Yeah.
So what is it like at the beginning and what is it like at the end? What transformation do you see in the guests from when they've walked through these doors?
So when they come in, a lot of them are quite nervous because they don't know quite what to expect. They're unsure as to whether or not they're meant to be paying for something. I had a guest last year who didn't want a cup of coffee because he didn't think he had enough money. And actually explaining to them, no, tea, coffee, food, everything you have here is provided for you for free from the donations and everything else that comes to make Crisis Christmas happen. And you see them from being quiet and reserved, and they come out of themselves, and you can actually see how they develop. And those particular things like arts and crafts, to actually sit down and what they, the art that they produce is quite phenomenal.
And we have a really wonderful question from Liesel. She asks, are there any homeless people who have turned their lives around and now in turn serve others?
There are. I definitely have at least one volunteer, because I saw him when we did our new vol inductions during the week there, who was a guest here last year and is back here volunteering with us. And that's not an unusual thing for us. I mean, we get quite emotional actually when we see it. But for people who have come through the system that Crisis has helped throughout the year, have probably started off here and then accessed Skylight and the advice services that Crisis provides all during the year, and then to see that when they come back and volunteer, and they have a better understanding than any of us the rest of us could ever have.
Let's go and have a look at this truck over here. Okay, I don't know if we'll be able to look inside it. We were hoping to speak to a dentist, but let's have a look. This is a truck, there's a number of them, with dentists who can provide all kinds of services here. Can we go and have a look inside? All right, let's go and have a look. Do you want to come in with me? So they have these trucks because it's a sterile environment. It's a professional dental truck. This is where you would come to get your dental treatment, and dental treatment is very expensive. It's something that a lot of people on the streets wouldn't necessarily be able to afford. So when they have that special week over Christmas, when they're being looked after, this is where they can come to get that really important treatment. We have another couple of questions. We have a question from Zach. Zach says, can this happen throughout the year and not just during Christmas?
That's a really interesting question, to be honest. I mean, for us to do this for an 8 days is a huge undertaking. And part of what Crisis is trying to do throughout the year as well is to allow people to get back into employment, to be able to get back into housing themselves, and supporting them to do this. There are a whole variety of other services available to homeless people throughout the year. Not one as specific as this, not where you are a guest and to do that. But I think while we don't provide this throughout the year, what's important is to make those changes to reduce the level of rough sleeping and to help homeless people to get back into housing and work.
It's a wonderful project and wonderful work, and lots of our viewers have said how very humbling an experience it is from their own experience volunteering. Polly says she did a couple of night shifts for Crisis a couple of years ago and it was very humbling. Karen says she's volunteered and met some amazing guests, so that really is fantastic. We're going to... Oh, fantastic. We've got a dentist.
Hello.
Hi, this is Janine.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do at this time of year?
Yeah, of course. Well, I've been volunteering with Crisis now for around about 6 years. Sorry,
That's all right.
I'm in need today. I'll call them back in a moment. So I've been volunteering with Crisis for about 6 years, and I've been shift leading and part of the steering group for about the past 3. We've just been setting up, getting things ready, getting the mobile units together, and then all the action's going to begin from tomorrow morning. And we usually see across the week between 400 and 450 guests coming
So not
through.
just the guests who are staying here, other guests will come just because you offer those dentistry services?
Exactly. So we offer a triage service as well. So we are going out to see guests at other centres. We are doing a triage service for them, and then we bring them back here and we see them in the afternoons. So not only are we seeing the guests who are here, but we're also seeing the additional guests from all the other sites as well, which is brilliant. But it's not just here that we have mobile units. We have mobile units also down in Bermondsey. So we've got 2 up here, 2 down there, and we run a really comprehensive service doing extractions and doing fillings and lots of scale and polishes and checkups.
So the extractions and fillings, are they quite common among people who sleep rough or don't have a regular place to sleep?
They are, yeah. So we do see lots and lots of patients in needs of dental extractions. Lots of people do want to save their teeth, and where possible we do. We provide them with fillings as well, and we want to make sure that as far as possible we respect patients' choices and their dignity, and we make sure that we do our very best for them across the week. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much.
That's a pleasure.
We're going to continue.
That's lovely.
So onwards we go. Let's go inside where I believe some people from the Samaritans are waiting to speak to us. How important is it to have a counselling service, a listening service, those kind of services here as well?
So while I said we get, our volunteers sit down and talk to our guests, sometimes our guests need something more specific, and the Samaritans very much are trained to do that. We have volunteers who also specifically are trained to deal with more complicated issues that our guests bring up. While we have 11,000 volunteers, they aren't trained counsellors, and sometimes as well we just aren't the right people to have those conversations, and Samaritans is where we would normally signpost the guest to speak to, and they've got that ability to do it, and it's very important. Our guests have been through a huge amount of really difficult issues just purely because they're living on the streets, or have experienced homelessness, whether they're in hostels or anything else. It's important that they get someone who can speak to them, who can understand, and they feel safe speaking to as well.
So we're about to speak to the Samaritans, but before we go in, I've just got a couple of comments. One thing worth mentioning is that we've added a couple of links about homelessness to the Facebook Live. So if you want to scroll down into the comments, you can find a little bit more information about homelessness in the UK and around the world, as well as the work that Crisis and other shelters at Christmas are doing. We have a question. Roz asks, how can people get involved to help?
So you can get involved to help with Crisis Christmas in a whole variety of ways. The majority of our volunteer shifts are full now because returning volunteers are trying, always from October onwards, are trying to book them up. But look on our website, and it's crisis.org.uk. And look, if you want to volunteer, then have a look and see what shifts are open. Quite often we find that the night shifts more difficult to fill, purely because you have to change your body clock to be able to deal with it. So if you still want to do that, look on there. We have a community wish list for donations that we still need to do to make this whole project function. But also on Crisis, the website, there's a whole variety of things of how you can get involved, whether it's volunteering, it's campaigning, down to things like speaking to your MP to make sure that legislation goes through, and that your local authority as well. But Crisis website is an excellent place to start.
Thank you very much. Let's go inside. I'm not going to try the doors this time. Here we go. Hello, hi. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Hi. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell me a bit about what you do?
My name's Uriah. I'm with Samaritans. We organise the Samaritans Presents at Crisis at Christmas and have been for 35 years.
And I'm Trish. I'm the Regional Director for London.
Fantastic. 35 years, that's a very long time. 35 years of the 50 years that Crisis has been running this service at Christmas.
Sadly, yes.
So what kind of service is it that the guests here can expect to get?
We offer emotional support, so we're essentially a listening service, and it's a place where people can come and talk to us about things that are going on in their lives. People who come to Crisis have obviously been through a lot and are going to be going through a lot, and we try to help them wherever possible, both the guests and the volunteers who come into Crisis too.
What kind of experiences might they come to you with?
Well, what we do is a confidential service, so we can't go into specifics, but broadly speaking, people have had relationship breakdowns, they've got experiences of feeling suicidal, there's depression, there's anxiety. Christmas for a lot of people is a good time, but also for other people it's a bad time as well. It's a very tough kind of period in the year, so we try to help people get through that as well.
And those issues that you've mentioned, the mental health problems, suicide, anxiety, depression, are they more prevalent among the homeless community?
We have found that research would suggest that is the case, yes, and that's why we try to reach out to the communities in terms of the work that we do and work with Crisis, and have done for a number of years to help make that in a better situation.
So, unfortunately, for suicide is dependent on your social circumstances, and if you're from a lower socio-economic group, particularly men, you're more liable to, there's a higher incidence of suicide.
Thank you ever so much for speaking to me. Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you both. We're going to have a quick look at the kitchen and what it's like preparing meals for more than 200 people. I was told by someone in the kitchen that that's about 250 to 300 fried eggs on a Saturday morning. And they're making breakfast, lunch and dinner, hot meals 3 times a day throughout this festive period. Where's the kitchen?
I will take you there.
Lovely, thanks ever so much.
So this is our restaurant on the
Okay.
kitchen, and we serve our guests at the table because that's something they wouldn't normally experience. But our kitchen staff are all volunteers as well, and we'll just interrupt them just now. And this is Justin, who's our chef.
Hi, Justin. Hi. Tell me a bit about what you're doing over this 8-day period.
So we're providing 3 meals for about 300 guests. Start filling up tomorrow morning, which, from what I understand, happens quite quickly because everyone here is coming from winter night shelter already that just closes down for Christmas. So we're a residential centre, which means we're looking after guests 24 hours a day.
Let's go and have a look
in the
inside.
kitchen.
I'm expecting some rather impressive amounts of supplies. Can you show us?
This is basically, you're in the midst of the setup at the moment.
All right.
Everything's just coming in, so this is our setup today. So we open tomorrow morning. So, yeah, as you can see, catering for about 300 people. It's got 200 guests, 100 volunteers per shift.
Wow.
There's 3 shifts running through the day, so we're looking at, 24-hour a day.
What's on the menu? What is on the menu?
So,